Hey, so what's good, everyone? Starting the show early. Well, I finished watching Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story. It had 10 episodes on Netflix. Um, yeah, yeah, from watching it, I was pretty creeped out. It was very dark. And back in the 90s, it was this story about this guy killing these men as well as boys, um, cutting them and eating them, having sex with the dead bodies. It was sick. And he was doing this from 1978 up until he got caught in 1991. And it's number one as the most watched on Netflix. And I thought the guy who played Jeffrey Dahmer, his name, did a good job portraying that sinister person. Evan Peters, he's been in American Horror Story, so he's a pretty good actor. And he even said he had to go to a dark place to play that person. And yeah, what stood out in the series was the deaf guy who was murdered. Like, that really broke my heart seeing that. And he was so desperate for love, and he got involved with that sick bastard. And another one that stood out was this 14-year-old Asian boy. Now, prior, he sexually assaulted his brother, his older brother. He drugged him and sexually assaulted him, and Dahmer got a slap on the wrist. Um, Jimmy, stop coming on my shit with just bullshit, okay? You're trying to get attention. I'm not mentioning you. You're a non-fucking factor. So, anyways, hey, Loyal, how are you? So, anyways, back to the story. Okay, so I'm watching the Dahmer story, and he took this 14-year-old boy and convinced him to come to his place to take pictures for money. And he drugged him, sexually assaulted him. And the boy, he almost escaped. And what was very fucked up about it, he escaped when Dahmer was out. And the lady, one of the women, they tried to save the boy. He was 14. And the officers was taking Dahmer's word and believing him, saying it was a lover's quarrel and saying how he's 19 when in fact he was 14. And the series delved into the incompetence of the officers, the whole police department in Wisconsin. And there was a lot of racism as well as homophobia going on that this had this Dahmer guy get away with so much. He killed a hitchhiker back in 1978, which was his first victim. And he was in the military. See, Fresh says, because back then folks was scared of gay people. Yeah, it was a lot of homophobia going on. And so, yeah. And the majority of his victims were Black. And so this gay, so Dahmer, he was a homosexual. And he had this weird obsession with men torsos. And he was just a weird person. And he was just have he this okay, like in the scene, right? He stole a mannequin at a store, and he had this obsession with the torso. And he started like cutting the men's body parts and eating them, putting them in the refrigerator, keeping the heads and all types of sick shit he was doing. Okay, so when he was in the military, he was like drugging like his roommate and sexually assaulting the guy. And there was another incident where he drugged another soldier and violated them. And one of the guys, where I did research, he said how Dahmer possibly murdered some people while in the army. He suspected that. They believe if they got too close to gay folks, they could be infected. That's why the cops never got too close to him. Yeah, it was. Yeah, and there was a lot of a lot of ignorance during that time. And Dahmer, he would go to gay bars and pick up these men, offer them money to take pictures for him. And the majority of the victims were Black. Now, his initially, he was killing these men as grandma house. And in the story, there was a guy by the name of, his name was Ronald Flowers. My bad. Flowers. He was getting his, he in the scene of the series, right? He was having car trouble, and Dahmer offered to help him out. And so he went to his grandma's house, Dahmer's grandma's house, because during that time he was living with his grandmother. So he in the scene, he drugged his coffee. And so the grandma, she was hearing a bunch of commotion. And she was checking it out, what was going on. And the guy was drugged up, and Dahmer was like trying to get her back upstairs, and she wouldn't go. So the whole time she just stayed there. And if it wasn't for her, that guy would have been killed. because that was he was planning to do. And certain certain one of the some of the victims, he was murdering them in his grandma's house way before he like got his own place and got an apartment, where he was taking all these men to his place and killing them. He got away for so long because of the hatred back then for gay people. Yeah, and Dahmer played along with it, like saying things like, "Oh, you know how us gay people are," just playing along with it. And he got away, off of white privilege because let's be real, he was murdering these black men. Some of them weren't gay, and then like this case with the arrow guy, he wasn't gay, but he was most of his victims were black. And it was an opportunity for him to do what he did, to murder people of color. He took advantage of a 14-year-old boy, and there was another story. It didn't make I they didn't put it in the series. Like there was a boy that was Native American. He killed. That boy was 14. He was a sex worker, and he murdered that boy. They didn't put that in the series. And he killed like his victims were, it was 17 of them that he murdered. And what I gathered from watching certain scenes, right? I was watching the part where he was driving and he had the body in his car, and the police pulled him over, and he didn't bother to check to see if the body was there. Like they just allow him to just drive away. And he had so many close calls. Like there was this lady named Glenda, which was his neighbor, Glenda Cleveland. She she was hearing much of noises, like weird noises and smells from her apartment. It was connected to his apartment. And she was hearing a lot of noises, and she would constantly call the police, and they didn't take her seriously. And she's been telling these police that what was going on, and they didn't take it seriously, just brushed it off. And it got me so upset watching it, because like I said, like I watched plenty of documentaries about this. And if you watch the documentaries about this fucked up individual, it's very sick. And that motherfucker got what he deserved in the end. His ass got put down by another inmate. He got what he deserved. See, Fresh says no one is fan. We trying to figure out if he was killing white folks, would he have cumulated 17 bodies? Hell no. He had the complexion for the protection. Hey, Pros, how are you? That's good. But yeah, it was so sickening. Like, Evan Peters, he did a good job playing that piece of shit. And, some people are saying like it exploits the victims. And I've heard one of the victims' sister, which is Rita Isabel. She said, like, this is re-traumatizing her, and she said how the people didn't come to her to consult her or anything. And I'll say this, like, I feel like, because this happened and it's real life, it's not fiction. I do feel like you should pay the the victim's family at least. That's just my take on that. And she said that she don't have to watch it and that she already lived it. And I and the thing is, unfortunately, because of situations like this, and Hollywood in general, they don't give permission if they're determined, if they want to do a story about something that happened in history, they're going to do it anyways. They don't. The thing is, should they consult the people left behind, the family? Somewhat. It's just the same thing when Selena was murdered. And the people, they want to right away do a movie about Selena. They didn't care how the family felt. So the family like beat them to the punch and just went ahead and did a movie about Selena. Process. Are you saying profits should go to the victim family? I think so, because they're getting paid for a tragedy. So I feel, you know, the family should also, benefit at least. That's just my opinion. Because, like I said, this is not fiction. This is real life. I mean, and and this is what I was worried about in this series. I didn't want that Dahmer guy to get more attention, because I, because a lot of times when things like this happen, these serial killers, these fucked up individuals, they get more attention than the people they murdered. And people like that should not get any type of clout. So the series, it really concentrated on the victims, and like I said, already watched the documentaries about this. Like, okay, mind you, this is entertainment, so because of that, they're going to add things that didn't actually happen, or they'll mix it up just for entertainment purposes. Like, for instance, let me see what this person's saying. They all deserved it. Dahmer, Gacy, Bundy, Jean, Ramirez, they all burning in flame. Oh, no doubt. Like, fuck all of them. Like, people like that are fucked up, and serial killers, people who have an impulse to kill people for sport, should be put down or locked up for life, honestly. Those type of people will kill again if you let them out. So it's best to just either keep them locked up forever or put their ass down, honestly. And the thing is, with the Jeffrey Dahmer guy, he was even smart. Like, the dude got lucky off of fucking white privilege and the fact that people, back then was very homophobic and didn't take crimes seriously pertaining to gay people, minority, especially in the neighborhood he was at, undeserved communities. And in the news, it was that's another thing that stood out, like, in the news, I remember they were taking out, like, the refrigerator of where he put the bodies in, it's yeah, it's like, I'm sorry, that Dahmer shit, that Dahmer whole Dahmer series is really dark, and when you watch even watching documentaries, it's worse, like, it is, and yeah, and, rest in peace to the victims, and and it makes me, like, upset, like, watching that because a lot of victims a lot of some victims could have been saved if they would have took that lady seriously that was his neighbor, when she constantly was calling them and telling them how this guy was using some drills and sawing the bodies, and they didn't take it seriously. And I'm trying to figure out, like, how the fuck, when all those times you went in this house, like, how can you not smell a dead body? And what made me upset, like, when I was watching the scene, like, okay, it took for you to look at pictures of him, taking pictures of the dead bodies for you to finally have him under arrest. Really? Like, that's what pissed me the fuck off. And what got his ass caught in the first episode, you see this guy, his name was Tracy Edwards. So, Jeffrey Dahmer, he's offering money to take pictures of this guy. He took him on his offer, went to his crib, and the guy was like, yo, it's smelling here. And that fucking weirdo had him handcuffed. And then this is another thing that stood out, and I even watched it in the documentary, how he was obsessed with The Exorcist 3, and, like, he would watch The Exorcist 3 to get in the mood to kill. So he was watching The Exorcist 3 with the guy who escaped and got the police involved. And so he was trying to distract Dahmer so he can get away. And, he was, like, trying to butter him up, trying to get Dahmer, like, comfortable so he can try to figure out how to get away. So, the guy, he got away, got the police involved, and that's what stopped Dahmer from killing people, which was Tracy Edwards. And yeah, it's just sick how this piece of shit just got away with killing people. It's just, and I was like, okay, like, the two officers, they briefly got terminated, right? And then they got their jobs back. And to this day, like, one of the officers, like the president of some type of police association, some shit like that. So they were very incompetent for letting that piece of shit get away with it. And see, and this was okay. And I wish they would have put this in a scene where when one of the women, the girls, she was 17 at the time, she was trying to get that Asian boy away from Dahmer. And I wish they would have put that in that scene. I wish, because originally she said that motherfucker referred to her as a crazy black bitch to the officer. And she was trying to protect that boy from going back to Dahmer. And the stupid police officers, they took his side and allowed that drugged up 14-year-old to go back to Dahmer. Like, that part made me so fucking upset. It's disgusting. And honestly, I don't think that piece of shit had any remorse. Even the guy who took him out the game, that inmate who ended up killing him, he was saying how he was like making jokes and like using the food he was eating and saying that they're human body parts and shit like that. So he didn't have no remorse. He thought it was cute. And again, he got what he deserved. Like, fuck him. I don't care. Like, he got murdered in prison. And quite frankly, he deserved it. You deserve to meet the same fate that you did towards your victims. You cut them up, you ate them, you cut their bodies up and put them in a fucking refrigerator, severed their heads, used their skeleton. I mean, and the guy got off on that. The dude had an impulse, like, he got off on the power and the control. He wanted his victims to be submissive to him. He didn't want his victims to have any type of control. Like, he didn't have the capabilities of being with another guy without wanting to dominate them. Like, he got off on them being dead or drugged up so he can have his way with them. Like, he was having sex with their dead bodies. That dude was just a disgusting piece of shit, man. I feel bad for the Ocean family, what he did to their young sons of the family. Yeah, and the guy, he sexually assaulted the victim's oldest brother prior. And the guy, that's another thing that made me mad in the series. That judge pissed me the fuck off trying to have sympathy for that motherfucker. He only did like a year in jail for that, him molesting that boy. I mean, the boy, he drugged him. He could have killed him if he wanted to. He drugged him, sexually assaulted him, and all he did was a year in jail. But that judge pissed me off trying to sympathize with him. And yeah, so certain parts in this series, I saw the part where it was so much. I was like, yeah, that shit, it just got me so emotional watching certain scenes. Oh, okay. Now, the scene you saw where he made Glenda eat his sandwich, right? She never did. And I'm gonna tell you, like, that particular scene is kind of mixed up with another lady because there was another neighbor of his by the name of Pamela Bates, and she was saying how she used to eat Dahmer's food. And she said she thinks the food he was giving her was human remains. This is what this lady believes. And that would be shocking because that motherfucker was eating people. So it would be far-fetched if he was feeding his neighbor human remains without her knowledge. So, yeah, and so they got rid of the apartments that he was killing people in. And to this day, it's vacant. And that Glenda Cleveland lady, she wanted to have it as a memorial for the victims. That never went to fruition. So yeah, Steve Fresh said, I heard he busted nut after he kills them without sexual intercourse. Yeah, he got off on having sex with their dead bodies. Like, he got off on that shit. Like, he just got off on them being just drugged up and dead. Like, that dude was totally disturbed. And in the episode where it shows his fascination with dead animals, he was his father, he was like a chemist or something. He was teaching his son, how to dissect animals. And so the father was wondering, did that like cause his son to want to kill people? And all the things he was taught, he ended up doing it to human beings. And that dude, Dahmer, he got away with so much. And back then, even with the hitchhiker guy, his first victim, times were really different back then because people used to hitchhike. And, nowadays we're more cautious. We don't do that. That's how you get murdered. But back then, people were more trusting of people back then. So hitchhiking wasn't seen as a big deal. But, now we know better because we're like cautious now. We don't take rides from people. We just don't, because of people like Dahmer, Ted Bundy's of the world. And I'll tell you like what's so sickening, right? And these people actually have fans. They write these people. Like, I remember like women were like sending Ted Bundy shit. And even that Dahmer guy, like, what the fuck? Like, you're attracted to a fucking serial killer? Really? Like, these people get so much clout off of doing evil shit when they shouldn't. Like, I even seen like the Boston bomber getting love from these women online, having dedication posts of him and Tumblr and shit like that. Process Dahmer probably the reason dissecting frog is no longer part of school curriculum. And yeah, so in the series, we saw how the mother was taking a bunch of pills while she was pregnant with Dahmer. And, that's been suspected that maybe that money either fucked them up or whatever somehow. And the mom, she didn't want shit to do with him. Like, when she divorced his dad, she just took the younger son. Yeah, because he also has a brother. So when she divorced the dad, she just took the young son and left Dahmer behind. And so what I found out that his younger brother, he just totally like changed his name and just took on a whole new identity. So yeah, he pretty much stays out of the spotlight. Those folks are just as dangerous. There's a lot of curious folks out there that wants to eat people. Yeah, like even like right now, like I'm sure there's serial killers amongst us, okay? And that's the scary part. That's why you have to be cautious at all times because there's some sick people in the world. There it really is. And this is my thing about the whole Ted Bundy and people like Dahmer, like they're so like overrated because they act like they're the only serial killers. Like, do you realize there's other serial killers currently? Honestly, like it's like, goddamn. And people always like been fascinated with these type of evil people all the way back to Jack the Ripper. And then you had that serial killer named John Wayne Gacy, the killer clown guy. He was killing people while dressed up as a clown. And even okay, like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, if you all don't know, it's fictional, but the whole Leatherface guy is really based off of that other serial killer named Ed Gein, FYI. Then you had the BTK guy. And when they caught him, like he totally didn't wasn't anything we expected. And that's the scary part. Like a lot of them serial killers looks semi normal. Like that's the scary part about it. Then you had Richard Ramirez. That dude was like a devil worshiper. He was killing women and yeah, so it's been a lot of serial killers over the years. And then you had that other lady. She was a big deal. She was a female serial killer. Her name was Eileen Runers. That's the one Charlize Theron played in the movie Monster. Yeah, she killed a bunch of men. She was a prostitute. And based off the movie, like she was sexually assaulted by one of the customers, and so she just started killing men. And with her, she got the death penalty. And Charlie, she did a good job portraying that lady. She and what was so like eerie, like she looked just like her with all the makeup and stuff. Like I see like pictures of comparison. Like she really looked like that woman. That was so like eerie to say the least. But she did a good job portraying that person. And Evan Peters, he's known for playing dark roles. Like he said, like playing Jeffrey Dahmer was like the hardest thing he had to do because he said in order to play this role authentically, like he had to go to that dark place. But he had to really go deep playing that role. And again, that Dahmer guy was just fucked up. So yeah, in order to play that type of person, yeah, you gotta go to some dark places. And I remember at one point, when Evan Peters was on American Horror Story, like he even said like he had to take a break, like playing certain dark characters because it was affecting him mentally wise. So he had to take a break from American Horror Story at one point. And I hear actors, say that like when after they're done playing certain roles, like they had to go to therapy because it was just so like dark, like it was so deep, like they had to go through to play that role. Like I know Michael B. Jordan, like that was shocking to me when Michael B. Jordan said that he had to go to therapy after playing Killmonger. Like I shit you not, he had to go to therapy for that. And hey, LA, how are you? See, Fresh says, so do you think he purposely sent the cop to his draw for the handcuffs, or they just put that in the movie? I think the cops went in the house and saw the unthinkable. I think I don't. That's what I'm saying. Like when you're watching like a movie or TV show about a real life situation, you really got to take certain things with a grain of salt. If you, because again, this is entertainment, and they're gonna add things or change things for entertainment purposes, and you just have to watch a documentary or a book if you really want to get some accurate facts. Process what? You mean what I said about Michael B. Jordan? Yes, he said he had to go to therapy after playing Killmonger. Yes. Royal Libra said Heath Ledger playing the Joker. Yeah, he was having trouble sleeping, and unfortunately, that's how he passed away. He was expressing in interviews way before that movie came out how he was having trouble sleeping. So Heath Ledger, he got deep into that role playing the Joker for in Dark Knight. And they call that method acting, where you just stay in that role. You don't never break character. You just stay in that role. Even when you're not filming, you just stay connected to the role you're playing. And that can sometimes take a toll of you mentally. Because again, certain actors said how they had to go to therapy or had to take a break after playing a role. So it can take a toll on you when you're that dedicated playing a certain character or role. So yeah, and then you have people saying like content like this should be made. And the thing is, you know, unfortunately, people are gonna watch anything. It doesn't matter because you've seen that series, it went number 1 on Netflix. So obviously somebody's watching it. And like I said, like I already watched Dahmer. Like I already watched all the documentaries about that motherfucker. And he was just a fucking modern day fucking Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs. That dude was a sick bastard, and I'm glad he was put down. He didn't have no fucking remorse for what he did, and he got the same fate that he did to his victims. And the guy who killed him, he said how he was having a psychotic break because the guy was schizo, and he was also in there for murdering someone back in 1990. So he killed Dahmer and some other guy in there in the scene, right? I don't know how true it is, but in the scene, he killed that other guy because he killed his wife, right? And he tried to lie and say that 2 black men killed his wife. So he killed him for that reason. And he killed Dahmer. Now, from the facts of that, the guy who killed Dahmer, he said how he didn't put up a fight. He just accepted his fate. Hey, how are you, Isha? And Dahmer, he that's another thing. He One thing about that piece of shit, he acknowledged like what he did was fucked up, and he didn't make no excuses. He didn't try to have no fucking sob story about his fucking childhood and all that shit. Like, this guy did the things he did because he got off on it. He had an impulse. He had control issues. He wanted his victims to be submissive. He wanted that power and control. He got off on that shit. Dude's a sick bastard. And my takeaway from this, we should never build people like up to a pedestal. No. Acknowledge the victims, because I'm sorry, there's going to be copycats that want to get clout for murdering people, because unfortunately these motherfuckers always going to have fans. They're always going to get that clout off of doing something so horrible. And we have to take account, this is real life. This is not a fictional story. This is real life. And there are people still living that is impacted by this. They lost their loved ones to that piece of shit. And I understand that some of them may not want to watch that series. They don't want to be watching their family member being killed, So, I mean, that's understandable. And I'm gonna tell you another similar situation. That scared the shit out of me, that DC sniper. And I'm not going to lie, like when that went down, I really thought like it was just some crazy lone white guy doing it. It was a shock when it was actually two black men. Well, the child was a minor, and how he was just like randomly killing people, like people in the gas station. Like, you didn't know where shots were coming from, and the guy was just killing people. And how he was killing them, he was in the backseat. He was like, what did they did? Like, in the backseat, they like open it to the point you can get to the hood and go around shooting people. Like, that was scary during that time. And that guy, he got the death penalty, that Muhammad guy. But the other guy, the minor, he got denied parole. And as of now, like, he's engaged to some wealthy woman. That's what I read in an article. But yeah, back then, a lot of, especially black folks, we just assume it was some lone crazy white man. So it was a shock when it was some nutty ass black man instead, like two at that. And I think that boy, that minor, he was brainwashed. And the guy, his reason for doing what he did was fucked up, because initially he wanted to kill his ex-wife and use the killings as a cover for some reason. So he initially wanted to take out the ex-wife because she didn't want to be with him anymore. And she had custody of the kids. And so he wanted to take her out. But yeah, that was a scary time during that DC sniper shit. That was bad. And that was like a year after 9/11. That was a scary part. Like, I thought it was another terrorist attack, honestly. Thought it was some lone white guy doing that. So yeah, that was a scary time. So yeah, like I said, oh yeah, they're really eating this shit up. Like, they're, as of this month, they're dropping like a documentary of Jeffrey Dahmer on Netflix. So yeah, they're really like dragging this shit out, and it's like, we already know what we know about Dahmer. Like, what is there to say about him? Like, I would be more interested in the victim's family, like, honestly, than, because it's like we already know about Dahmer. Like, there's nothing more to say about that situation. Like, okay, I watched that other serial killer series with Ted Bundy, the one where Zac Efron portrayed him, and it wasn't as graphic, you know. And he had another one that got away. Like, this dude got away with his looks. He looked like, to me personally, I didn't find him like attractive, but the media says he was conventionally attractive. Okay, and believe it or not, this dude has a daughter. Like, the dude, he managed to have a child while he was locked up. So I guess he was able to have sex with the woman he ended up marrying. So he has a daughter. And yeah, I felt like Zac Efron like portrayed that guy very well. That Ted Bundy character. And he got the death penalty. But yeah, even he was getting all this attention from women sending him letters and thirsting after him. And there's just some people out here that's really attracted to these serial killers, which is crazy. But yeah, that's just my take on that. Now, we have new updates about this Pnb Rock murder. So what's coming out now? It was a father-son duo that was involved in the killing of Pnb. And of course, they're arrested, and the stepmom, she is seen as an accessory, so they arrested her as well. And what's so fucked up about that? The father was the getaway driver, and the son was 17 and robbed and killed Pnb Rock. And it's fucked up that you were training your child to go rob and kill people. Like, that's what you teach your son, really? And they said the dude was on probation, the minor. He had on a ankle bracelet, you know, monitor. So they caught him and his stepmom, and then they found the dad in Vegas. And for the longest, people were blaming his girlfriend for putting up the location on her Instagram. Well, you know what? Come to find out, they were already there. So it didn't have nothing to do with her posting. And the cop said that Pnb, he also like put his location up. And the thing is, it could have been because the dude had a lot of jewelry on him and you got it. And that's the one thing about it. When you're, I'm sorry, leave the hood behind. Don't be around niggas. I'm just being real. The hood does not love nobody. And they will rob you. Okay. They will kill you for having material possessions. Okay. And that's all I'm gonna say about that. Stay away from the hood because the hood does not love you. The people are envious. They want what you have. And so when you're out here, flossing your jewelry or jealous of your status, they want to take you out. They want what you have. Just leave the hood behind. Honestly, no good comes from being in the hood or hanging out with the people in the hood. As soon as you get money, leave that hood shit behind. Because the hood don't love you. So now, okay, Nick Cannon, he now welcomed his 10th child. Like, goddamn, how many times is Stu gonna keep on having a bunch of babies? Like, okay, yeah, the dude has money, but like, how are you gonna be there for all these kids in different households? How? That's impossible. And it's just, I don't know what the fuck he's going through where he's just like, I just want to have a bunch of kids. I just want to populate the earth. Like, I don't get it. Like, I get he's fucking has lupus or whatever, but like, um, yeah, kids need stability. They need a present father. And the only way that would work is if the women were in the same household. Like, how can you be there for all of them? How can you remember all their birthdays? Like, how? And see, people like him, he don't have to worry about that because again, all of that responsibility is going to fall on the women, like when it comes to raising kids. And it takes more than that. Like, you have to be there for the kid. Like, you have to be there emotionally. Yeah, you're throwing money on the kids, but yeah, you have to be present. You have to be equally present for all them kids you're bringing to this earth. Like, children don't ask to be here. So, yeah. So, again, Nick Cannon, he's going to keep on having a bunch of kids. Like, I don't know, like, what the fuck going on with that dude. I don't get it. So, oh, and tomorrow, Interview with the Vampire TV show is dropping on AMC. Now, there was a movie with Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt, movie version of Interview with the Vampire. It's based off the book with the late Anne Rice. She writes a bunch of vampire stories, and she also had something to do with Queen of the Damned. She wrote that book. And so, I think the show's going to be good because, they sort of made some changes from the movie. Like, okay, in the TV show, right? It's set in 1910 because in the original movie, it was set in the 18th century. And the character of Lestat, which was played by Brad Pitt in the movie, they made him Creole, black or whatever. And still set in New Orleans, but it's set in 1910. And they aged Claudia. She's black. They made her black. They aged her, so she's not going to be a little girl. In the series, she's 14, so they aged her. And I like the original movie, but I think this series is going to be really good. Based off the trailer, I really do think it's going to be better. And it hasn't even premiered yet, and they already gave them a second season. So I can't wait to watch that because I'm like into vampires and shit like that. Like I'm into all of that stuff. And then, Chucky second season come out on USA as well as Sci-Fi October the 4th. First season was definitely good. I love that show. And season 11 of American Horror Story will be back October 19th. And it's going to be set in New York City in the 70s, from what I'm hearing. And back to the interview with the vampire. Now, I'll say this. Okay, in the book, right? Anne Rice, she was implying like in the, but if you've read Interview with the Vampire, it's kind of imply like Lestat and Louis were lovers, right? So in this, they didn't delve that much into it in the movie because back then, it was a different time. They're not back then, so they didn't delve into their relationship romantically. But in this series, it's going to show Louis and Lestat being lovers. So that part's gonna be in the series. But yeah, I can't wait to see that. Bra says females that don't like scary movies are a deal breaker. I love horror movie. Like I don't know. I just into that. I love it. Like I love like vampires, aliens. Like I'm into shit like that. I'm into witches. I'm into all of that. Like I would watch anything scary. Like I just don't. I don't know. That's just something I enjoy watching. I'm obsessed with it. Okay. Oh, I forgot to tell you guys. There's going to be a reboot of Hellraiser. It's going to be on Hulu this month. Oh my gosh, when I tell you the trailer is awesome. Oh my gosh. Now, okay, it's based off of a novel, okay? Just to let y'all know. I love the original Hellraiser, but you have to know like in the book, right? Originally Pinhead was a female if you didn't know. So they cast a trans woman to play Pinhead, the actress or whatever. She was from this chick, trans woman, or whatever. She was on this Netflix show called Sense8. So she's gonna play Pinhead in the Hellraiser reboot. But oh my gosh, from watching the trailer, it looks good. And that movie used to scare the shit out of me. That Pinhead character, oh my gosh, man, that movie was scary as shit. Like that from the first one, the second one was scary too. Like, oh my gosh. That was a scary ass movie. So I'm looking forward to watching the reboot. It looks good. It looks good based off the trailer. And the chick that's playing Pinhead already scaring the shit out of me. So yeah, I'm gonna be watching that. You see, I'm like so obsessed with it. I can't help it. Like I love watching scary shit. I don't give a fuck. I'll watch anything horror related. Process off topic. I love to see Shocker Part 2. Oh, okay. Okay, so I've been binge watching a lot of stuff on Disney Plus. Like there's certain like I love watching like superhero shows. Like I'm a nerd. Like I like watching Star Wars. Like they have a bunch of shows like Star Wars related, like that show Andor. And I like watching it. It's a pretty good show. I like watching Hulk. It's all right. The female version of Incredible Hulk. So they have that show out. They have another show called Miss Marvel. That's a pretty good show. So yeah, I've been binge watching that. So yeah, what else I've been watching? Yeah, I've been watching like stuff I used to watch growing up. Like back then, like okay, Disney Plus. Let me tell you something. Like if you're feeling nostalgic and you just want to watch like old Disney stuff, it's worth the money. Like okay, like when I was younger, like when I tell you I had every Disney princess movie, like I had them all. Like I had Pocahontas, I had Cinderella, The Little Mermaid. I have all of it in VHS. Snow White. Oh, and I'm not gonna lie, like when I was a kid, that movie Lion King made me cry, especially when Simba lost his son. I mean, when Simba lost his dad, Mustafa, like that made me in my feelings. Like I cried. I'm not gonna lie. And I did like the live action like Lion King, the one with Beyonce and Donald Glover. It was all right. But yeah, nothing beats the animation version. I love Lion King. That's a classic. Now I am looking forward to the Little Mermaid live action version. And Halle Bailey, I think she's gonna do a good job portraying that Ariel. And from the trailer, she sung her heart out to that song, from Little Mermaid. And these racists that's butthurt about her playing Ariel need to get over themselves. Like they getting upset over a fictional fucking character. Like, come on, get over yourself. And I seen like, oh, okay, like I seen girls watching the trailer. They were getting a reaction. They were like, "Mommy, she's brown like me." So it's nice to see little black girls have something to look up to. Cause when I was young, coming up, I was excited when Brandy got the role of Cinderella. That was a big deal, and it was the act. It was so diverse because you had like Whoopi Goldberg as the prince mom and a white dad, and then you had the prince played by an Asian guy. So it was pretty diverse. And you had the late Whitney Houston, and you know, the, so it's no different. And I love that movie, Cinderella with Brandy. So yeah, well, I'm about to get off of here. You all have a wonderful night. Peace.